Really sorry, Dale, for the delay.
So, like I've made many projects on machine learning, and machine learning. The projects I make is mostly AI,
Cool.
and like the like sound projects, and then like like I made a project Shy Panda. Then I made a project called Eat, Eat Drink Love. So like say I put like a Doritos packet or a Lay's packet, then it would be recognized as eat. If I put like a water bottle, it would be recognized as drink. And like made a heart or something, then it would be recognized as love.
Oh, that's really cool.
I think we are live now. Ishita, would you like to?
Yes. Should we start?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ada Lovelace Girls in AI 2021 Hackathon. I'm Ishita Huja, and I'm an educator at Coding and More. Coding and More is a personalized edtech that teaches AI and coding to children from grades kindergarten to grade 12. We are a passionate team of teachers, and we're committed to inspire our children to learn the latest and the most relevant AI skill sets. We're hosting the Ada Lovelace competition to create awareness on the AI tools available and to give children the chance to use and the platform to use this technology for social impact. In this competition, the children have to work in teams to use AI to solve for one of 3 UN SDGs: life on land, climate action, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. The whole weekend has been packed with a lot of fun and interesting workshops with people from all over the world. And today I'm extremely excited to present and have Mr. Dale Lane here with us. He is actually the founder of Machine Learning for Kids, which is a platform most of our children love using in all our classes. They cannot stop talking about all the projects that they've made today. But before we get started, I just wanted to introduce Dale Lane to us. He started Machine Learning for Kids as a coding tool that he created for local schools near his home in the UK. And it has turned into one of the most used IBM activity kits ever. And over 100 children use it every day. He wrote a book called Machine Learning for Kids, a project-based introduction to AI. And a lot of the projects that we do in our classes are based on this book itself. And he is extremely responsive to questions on Twitter. And I know anytime we get stuck with anything, we always tweet to him and have him help us with our queries. And we're very, very excited to have him here with us today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I keep wanting to say good morning, but it's not morning. So well, it's not for you. It is for me. Let me just share my screen and then we can get started. Which screen am I going to share that? And then I'll move that to the side. Okay, so I know that some of you have tried some of the tools I've made before and some of you haven't. So I'm going to try and hopefully, for the people who have done it before, maybe get you to look at it in a new way, to look at not just what machine learning is, but why do we use it and where should we use it? And for the people that are new to it, hopefully it will be a nice intro. So AI, artificial intelligence. AI is what we call anytime we get a project to do something that's a bit smart. It is, oh, hang on. I'm bringing up the chat window just so I can see if anyone tries to say anything. Right, there we go, that's good. Yeah, so AI doesn't sort of say how we get a computer to do something. AI is just what we use as a description of a type of project. So let me show you the kind of thing I mean. So imagine if you've ever seen a computer that recommends things to you. So like when I go on Amazon, it recommends things I might want to buy. When I go on YouTube, it recommends videos I might want to watch. Spotify recommends what music I want to listen to next. TikTok recommends what videos I might want to watch next. Recommending things is a really, really common AI application that probably I'm guessing a lot of you have used. So for this demo, I've made a really simple AI system that can recommend where I might want to go on my holiday. So I can say, I want to go fishing, and it can say, well, you could go to the fishing pond. Or I could say, I want to go to the museum, and it can recommend that I go to the museum. So this is an AI application, right? But if I show you how I made it, hopefully you can all see my code. Can anyone think, well, what do you think of the way I've done it? Do you think this is good? Can you think of a possible problem? Yes, hopefully you're unmuted. So yes, go for it. Is it Adve?
Yeah. So you've used this with machine learning for kids. You've like with different options. So you there'll be different buckets called museum or the fish pond, and then you'll write what people will think to that, and then
Yes, I mean that. So you're kind of ahead of me there, but just looking at this way of doing it, can you sort of looking at the code and trying to understand what it's doing? What do you think of this way of doing it? Because I think you've described another way of doing it, which is really good, that we're going to get to next. But before we get there, what do you think of this way of doing it? Actually, if the facilitators could help me spot people who have a raised hand and help them unmute, that would be really helpful.
it says suggest museum. So like I think like if it's like some words are connected to museum, then it'll museum will show like.
Yeah. What about, sorry, go on.
Sorry, Kavya, you want to try and answer what Dale is asking?
Yeah, so from what I can see on your screen, you've hard-coded it. So if someone writes, I really want to go to the museum or something else, it won't give them the museum because you've hard-coded it and you've not used AI, which can make patterns even if they write it a little differently. So if you write that, it won't. If you write something differently, it won't work.
Actually, so I agree with you. You're exactly right. But because of a bug in my code where I didn't remember to reset it at the start, actually that did work by accident. So let me try that again. So what you were saying is because I've hard coded it to look for exactly that message, if I say something different, like I really want to go to the museum, then it doesn't work because it will only work if I say exactly that. So yes, that's exactly right. But one tiny thing I would say is I still think this is AI. I think it's AI that's been done in a not very clever way, AI that isn't, that it's not very effectively done, but it's still AI. It's still trying to do something smart. So maybe we try and make it a bit smarter. So I've sort of prepared one earlier so you don't have to watch me do the coding. What do you think of this way of doing it? Because if trying out your example, you said, I really want to go to the museum. I really want to go to the museum. That worked. Or I would like for us to go to the museum. This works. It's saying if what I've said contains the word museum, then it recommends the museum. So what do you think of this? Is this a better AI? Is this smarter?
I want to say something about it. It could be a thing that what if they write, I don't want to go to the museum, like by chance. I don't know why they wouldn't write it, but it would spot the museum.
That's a really good point. Yeah. In technical terms, we describe that as negation. And negation, the spotting a not or a don't or I wouldn't. You're right. That really trips us up when we're doing AI projects, but especially if you do it like this, where you're just looking for a word. So, I hate going to the fun fair. It would recommend the fun fair because I mentioned the word fun fair. So you're right. That's a big problem with this. What other problems can you spot with doing it this way?
Ariana, you want to try going next?
So I think the problem would be that if you said I hate going to the fun fair, then there's no code about that you don't like going somewhere. So it didn't understand what you said, what you told it. So it said you would enjoy the fun fair.
Yeah. The other issue with this is it's still very dependent on me knowing the right word to use. So if I say I enjoy going, oh, I can't type. I enjoy going on scary rides. Oh, same bug again. It's going to keep telling me the last thing I did. So let me fix the bug by initializing my variable. There you go. So let me try that one again. I enjoy going on scary rides. It doesn't know what to do with that because I haven't used the word funfair. So we could make this smarter and give it a better list of words to look out for. So again, I sort of prepared one earlier, and this time I'm going to fix the bug before I run it so that So what this is doing now is it's saying, well, if I mention the word funfair or I mention the word scary, and we could think of some other words that people might mention. So we could say that people might say like rides. So I could say slow coding. I could sort of put things like that in there. So what do you think of this way of doing it? I mean, this is much better, right? This will recognize lots of different ways of phrasing it. In fact, I'll just test it and make sure that does work, and then I'll see what you think of it. Oh, see, the problem is screen sharing and coding at the same time as it gets really slow. There we go, right. So now I can say, I would like to go on scary rides, and it will tell me the funfair. Now, it doesn't fix the problem that I forget who said, someone was saying about if you say, I'm not a fan of scary rides, it will still keep telling me the funfair. So it's still got that problem. But what else do you, apart from that, what do you think of this way of doing it? Is this good? Is this bad? Do you think this is good AI?
So I think I know why, because in the code, when you're asking it that I like scary rides, the answer contains funfair.
Yeah, that is the big problem. And can anyone see any other problems in it? What else do you think is bad about this?
That's there. Scary rides sometimes are there in the funfair. So if you say that I like scary rides, then sometimes scary rides are there in the funfair. So it will say you should go to the funfair. So also you should say I like scary rides, but I don't like to go to the funfair. Example like that.
Yeah, so the more complicated we want to, the more sort of complicated we want to be able to handle situations we want to be able to handle, the harder this idea of coding it gets. Especially like if we try and do this way where we just try and predict. So this idea of predicting what words someone might mention and using that to give them an answer is a really common way of doing AI. A lot of people use that as a way of doing simple AI systems. I mean, part of the problem is just.
So even I have a problem.
Yeah, go on.
I'm not completely sure it's a correct problem, but what's happening here is in this AI, it's not letting the device prefer stuff for you. Like if you don't know what you want to do, it's not preferring for you. In some other AI, in something else, if the coding was a bit better, it would prefer for you. And even if you were lost, you would get your answer. Out here, both you and the device would be clueless.
I have an idea.
Go on, yeah.
So if the answer contains go to funfair or would like funfair, then it will suggest you might like going to the funfair, but it should also say that if answer contains not or not a fan of or something that says no or wouldn't like to, then the project should say that you might not enjoy going to the funfair, you might not enjoy going fishing.
Yeah. So to make sure everyone understood that, what you've described is a common way that I've seen people do AI projects. So you have what we sometimes describe this as like a bag of words. Like we just look to see if any of the words that the user mentioned are in this set that we've predicted. And you're right, we could have a list of words that we recognize as being not words, don't, wouldn't, that kind of thing, and use that to change our answer. So
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
What if you like say funfair and fishing point? Then what will happen? Like if you say,
that's a good point. Yeah. So that kind of thing does make it trickier. Like if you want to be able to give the user more than one answer, let me come back to that because that's a really nice point. But I think I can show you ways we can do that in a moment. So we've looked at lots of different ways of doing AI. I've shown you mostly ways that have real problems, and a couple of you who've used machine learning before have already sort of suggested that actually machine learning would be a better way of doing this. So machine learning is another way of building AI projects, and it's kind of our favorite way at the moment because it allows us to do things that are much more complicated. So instead of if they've said exactly this, or if they've mentioned this word, these are all approaches of using rules where we tell the computer what to do step by step by step. We tell it, look for this word, have they said this? And then if they've done that, then we give them some sort of response. This kind of approach of giving step-by-step rules has problems, as we've gone through. It struggles with negation, recognizing if someone doesn't like something. It struggles if they use a new word we hadn't thought of. It struggles if they phrase it slightly different, like someone suggested, if they say they really want to go somewhere instead of just saying they want to go somewhere. So that is why, although sometimes people do use this kind of approach for AI, it's not our favorite way. It's not what we think is the best way. Instead, and a couple of you have already mentioned this, right? So instead, our favorite way of doing AI at the moment is using machine learning, where instead of giving it rules, we show it lots of examples of how to do that task. So I know some of you already know this, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, I'm going to quickly explain what I mean by that. So I mentioned that YouTube is an example of where this kind of making a recommendation is really, really common. So this idea of recommending videos I might want to watch next. And the way they do it is using, like, when I click on the thumbs up, I'm telling it I like that video. If I watch a whole thing and not just skip it, I'm telling it I like that video. Those are examples that the computer can learn from, and the computer can learn from that to what sort of things I like instead of having someone write rules for it. So a way of thinking about it is, and someone's already mentioned this idea of having like buckets, right? So imagine a bucket of all the videos I do like. So these are the ones I clicked thumbs up on. These are the ones I watched the whole thing. And then there's another bucket of videos I don't like. These are the ones I clicked thumbs down, or these are the ones that I skipped really quickly because I got bored by them. Instead of writing a list of rules, instead of writing step-by-step instructions, we can use machine learning, which is a technique for computers to learn how to spot patterns in large numbers of examples. So this time it can recommend what I might want to watch for me using those examples. So I tried doing that earlier. I created 3 buckets for the 3 different places, and I put lots of examples. You can see the number. So I gave it 31 examples of saying, I want to learn about history. I want to learn about dinosaurs. I want to do something educational. For the fishing pond, I said things like, I want to do something relaxing. I want to go peaceful, that kind of stuff. And I used that to make this AI example, where it's just going to use my machine learning model that I've trained using the computer's ability to recognize patterns in the examples I've given it. So now, hopefully, this will be a better example than the ones I've shown you before. So I can say, I'm a big fan of scary rides, and it will suggest the fun fair. But I can say things like, I don't mind, but I hate things like scary rides. And it recommends something different. It suggests maybe something a bit peaceful, like going to the fishing pond. So this is this is our favorite way of doing AI at the moment, because and we use this because trying to do rules to handle all the different list of ways someone might mention it would take us a really long time. And it would be a really hard thing to do because we would have to think of so many different ways people might mention it. This way of doing it using rules, we found we describe it as it doesn't scale. It just takes us too long. Anytime there's a job we want a computer to do that is too complicated for us to describe exactly how to do it, machine learning is generally a better way. So particularly for the people who haven't done this kind of thing before, I'm going to sort of very quickly show you how I did this and how you can do this, so that hopefully it gives you an idea for how you can use it in your projects. So actually, let me close some of these windows because then my computer will speed up. Scratch is quite a big application, so running it 4 times makes my computer go slowly. There we go, that should help. So I'm going to go to get started and then try it now. That saves me having to remember a username and password, but you might have a username and password for the site, in which case you can use that instead. So I'm going to call I need to give my project a name. So I'm going to call it holiday app. And there's lots of things computers can learn to recognize. Computers, and before we started, someone was mentioning they've been doing a project with images to recognize different types of dresses. Someone else was saying they've done a project to recognize sounds. So computers are getting really good at recognizing all sorts of things, but for this, we're just going to go with text. So what we need to do, and I've sort of already gave you a hint of that, is we need to create buckets to collect the examples we're going to give it. So I'm going to do museum and fishing. And we need to collect lots of examples of what kind of things someone might be interested in if they would like to go to a museum. So I enjoy learning new things, or I would like to find out more about history. So now, when we're doing this in the real world, we need to work out who's going to be using our app, our project, our AI system, and try and find out ways that they would phrase it. We need to collect examples from users. And that's when you see things like this, it's collecting these, what we call training examples, because these are the examples we use to train the computer. We're collecting these examples from users. Now, when you're starting your projects, probably, if you're the kind of user for your project, then that's fantastic. You can come up with the examples. But if not, you kind of just need to make them up. And sometimes we have to do that. If we can't get real examples from real users, we just make it up to get started. So that's okay. But the only problem with doing it this way is it takes quite a long time. There's a lot of typing to try and make all these examples. So we really prefer to try and go and find real examples if we can. I'll try one more.
And also, if only we put in the examples and the data, then we're not taking how everybody might have written it, right? Though we try to get it the best that we can. So it becomes kind of biased because it's well-being of how we would kind of write it. So like we write it quick, but ourselves, then it will only kind of work best for us. But if we take a little bit of extra time, but we get everybody's opinion, then it will work better for everybody, right?
That's exactly right, yeah. And you've used exactly the right word as well. We call that bias, that idea of where the computer has learned to do, like you were saying, if I only give it examples of how I phrase things, and I'm an adult, I phrase things differently to the way you will phrase things, I will train a machine learning system that might be very good at understanding what I say, but would be very bad at understanding the way that you would phrase it. So, and that would be an example of bias. And the way that we would train a system to not be biased is if we came up with a mixture of examples of my phrasing and your phrasing, that would make it slightly better. So you're right, there is a real risk of, if you only have one source of training examples, if you do it all yourself, it might sort of work for you, but it would be quite biased, and it would have, and that might bring all sorts of problems. So yeah, that's a really nice point. And that's a really common mistake that people make. A lot of real world AI projects because they had challenges finding training data, they fall into this pitfall of making very biased systems. So yeah, that's a really, really nice point.
So I have a question.
Yeah, please.
How much storage does machine learning take?
So the training examples are the biggest sort of source of storage training data. Now for text examples like this are really small, so they're not too bad. So they will sort of, what we say, compress quite nicely. But when you start doing things like sound and images and videos, they get really, really big. So like when you're training a machine learning model to recognize pictures, your training pictures take huge amounts of space. So that's where it tends to get a bit bigger.
Because I also wanted to know, is it possible that we have different kinds of projects like text, images, sounds, and numbers? Is it possible that we can mix two projects? Because I had an idea of a project, but we'll have to mix this.
Yeah, so quite often in a machine learning system, we will use more than one machine learning model to do a particular project. So one example that I've used a few times before is if you're building a system to answer people's questions, you train two machine learning models. One of them recognizes the tone, the sentiment. Is someone happy? Are they annoyed? Are they pleased, or are they getting really frustrated? Are they getting a bit fed up? And then another machine learning model to recognize their question, to, the one that will give them the answer. And we use both of those models at the same time, and we use that to change the answer. So you could ask me, so the kind of example we've done is for an airline, someone who is asking, their flight has been cancelled, and they're asking how they get their money back for their flight ticket. And if they're just saying, oh, there's a problem with my flight, would you mind telling me, can you tell me how to get a refund? Then we give them an answer about how to refund their ticket in one way. But if they sound really annoyed, oh, I'm fed up, you've cancelled my flight, you've messed up my plans, then we give them a different answer. We phrase it differently. We maybe start with more of an apology. So that idea that you're saying, can we use two different machine learning models for one project, is a really nice one. Let me show you how to do it, because it's a little bit fiddly though.
Because I had an idea for a project that, so when you download the project or when you come to the app, you take pictures of all the clothes in your wardrobe. And after that, every day you fill in a form. And depending on the mood and the weather, and then out of all the clothes in your closet, it will tell you what to wear.
Cool. Okay.
That's image recognition and text recognition.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So let me see what models I've got around that I can show you. I mean, it doesn't need to make sense for this. Yeah, so let me use
I have a question, just a short question.
Yeah.
Whenever I make my projects, I only have the limit, even though I have an account. How come you are only able to make 2 at a time?
Yeah, I've increased the limit for myself because as I'm developing these projects, I need more space. And actually, it comes back to the question that someone was asking before about how much space does it take. That's why I set the limit to 2, so that I can make the website still be free without costing me lots of money. So let me show you how to use multiple projects. So what I did was I've got one project this is an image one, right? So this is recognizing, actually this one, my training images are all broken, but the point will still work. So this one is recognizing cards. So I go into Scratch, and then I'll have the blocks for my first project in Scratch. So if I scroll down there, you can see it's recognizing pictures, has different types of hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades. I need to save this. So I'm going to save it to my computer. And you can see it's appeared down there as Scratch project. So now I'll close Scratch, go to my other project. So I'm going to do the text one this time. I'll use this holiday tourist info one. Go into Scratch, click on Scratch. And then that will open Scratch with the blocks for the text project, the recognizing a museum, fun fair, fishing pond, and that's there. So you see, I've only got the blocks for another project, but what you want to do is mix them both together. So once you've got this open, if you load the project you saved before, so do file, load from your computer, and then I load that one I saved just now, I'll have both the one from the file, the image project blocks, and the text project blocks in the same project. So now I can make a Scratch project that uses both text and pictures at the same time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Cool. That's a nice point. I hardly ever see people do that because it's not very obvious that that works. So if you can come up with a project that uses 2 different machine learning models and 2 different types of machine learning model in one project, that would be really cool.
I had a question, like in like the normal Scratch, like when you go to their actual website, do you, like you don't have these machine learning blocks. So like, what is the website to go to this? Like
Yeah, so you're right. So I've had to make quite a lot of changes to the version of Scratch that I make available so that the machine learning stuff will work. So that's why, unfortunately, I can't get it to work on normal, like the regular Scratch. So I'll put a link in the chat, but that is kind of my version of Scratch that I've made quite a few changes to.
I thought there wasn't like a link for Scratch 3. It was only available through ML.
If you know the right address, you can get to it straight away. And the main reason people do that is if you, let me share my screen again. A benefit of going straight to it, let me close that, open a new window. Because we've mentioned before that collecting training examples takes a long time and you have to go and collect examples from lots of different people. So it's quite time consuming. Sometimes it's easier to use a model that someone has already trained with the training examples that they've spent a lot of time collecting. So this button down here in the bottom corner, the blue extensions button, I've put here some models that are already trained. Like, let's do a face one. So what this will do is it looks in the webcam and looks to see where some part of your face is. So if I do find where my nose is and do so I'll put the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. I'll make this a bit smaller so you can tell what it's doing. Whoa, that was a lot smaller. Let's make it a bit bigger than that. There we go. So now when I click on the green flag, actually, the last thing I'm going to do is just make it not quite so washed out because that transparency is makes it harder to see. So I'll put the transparency at 0. There we go. So now when I click on the green flag, the cat should go to where my nose is. So if I sit here and click on the green flag, it will, the first time you load the model, it's downloading the model and loading it into memory, so it's a bit slow, but after that, it should get quicker. There we go. So now if I sit over here and click the green flag, it moves over there. There's a bit of a delay because I'm using Zoom as well, but you see the basic idea. So that's why actually knowing that that is the right address for Scratch, if you're not planning to use your own model, that it's a nice shortcut. And there's a bunch of other models that are around. And this isn't just like for a machine learning for kids kind of idea. We quite often, when we're doing an AI project, we will look to see, has someone already done something similar to what we want to do? Has someone already collected training data that's similar to our project? Are there existing models that we can use? So where I go for all of this stuff is a website called TensorFlow Hub. And there are hundreds of models that people have published. So you can sort of see, like for image ones, there are 258 models people have published that will recognize different types of pictures. So we don't always train our own model from scratch. Sometimes we go and look to see what other models are available. And this TensorFlow Hub, that's what I've tried to recreate in this. It's like that's sort of a smaller version with a bunch of models. I know some of you have already started. The latest one I added was recognizing what note you're singing. This one is recognizing what's in a picture. This one is recognizing, it finds your different fingers in the webcam, that kind of thing.
I feel that the face detection photo is kind of like cunning.
Yeah, it's one that my daughter had a lot of fun with, because it's quite quick and easy. And one nice way of doing it is finding ways that people can interact with computers that don't involve typing. So if you can make a project where people interact with your project using their body, like if you can get it not just to recognize your face, but recognize your hand, so that the computer does a different thing when your hand's here versus here, that's a nice way of interacting with a computer. So yeah, finding alternate ways of interacting with AI, I really enjoy those kinds of projects. So actually, let me show you what I mean by that really quickly. So use the hand project one. See, I'm making this up as I go along, so I hope this will work, but you'll hopefully get the idea. I'm going to try and get it to say something different to me based on where my hand is. So I will say, if the I'll go for my middle finger. If it's less than 0, I'll say left, and if otherwise, I'll say right. I've not done this before. I've got no idea if this is going to work, but we'll see, right? So this is a new model, so this again has to load into memory. So the first time you use a new machine learning model, it takes a bit of time. So if I do there, it's right. If I move my hand here, left. So you could get the computer to do things based on moving your hand, and I could have done Y coordinates and done up, down. So there's all sorts of ways of, I think, yeah, the face ones are fun, that using your hands is fun. One thing that I've seen, MIT were doing a lot of projects around dance, getting people to interact with computers by actually pointing the webcam back a bit, stepping back, standing up and moving their body, and including exercise in their projects. You know, maybe like you could, if you're looking at ways of getting people to do more exercise, could you get an AI project to count how many times someone jumps or how many times someone gets up? Maybe you could get it to, you know, detect, have they been sat down for too long and tell them it's time to get up? Lots of different things. Like, don't limit yourself to projects where someone has to type something in, because there's all sorts of ways we can use AI. How are we doing for time? I know that I think I don't want to overrun, because I know you've got a busy day ahead.
We have about 10 minutes more. 15
Okay.
minutes to be precise.
Cool. Okay. Any other questions or any other ideas that people have or want to talk about or want to share?
I just wanted to say that the machine learning you've made is amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, so I showed you TensorFlow Hub, the website where I go to get a lot of models. A lot of what I've done with machine learning for kids has been based on things that other people have shared. Like, what I love about particularly open source is there's a whole community of us who are building things and sharing what we've built. So we all get to assemble things. So in the same way that you're using things I've made, I've used things that other people have made, like Scratch. Scratch is made by like a university in America called MIT. And if I had to build Scratch, all of it from the beginning, it would have taken me forever. The fact that I could take something that already worked and just add some new bits saved me a huge amount of time. So hopefully what you see when you use machine learning for kids is a bit of that spirit of that community that is sharing and building and improving on what other people have done. So yeah, although I sort of did that last bit of that you've been using, it's based on a lot of work from a lot of amazing people.
Did it take years to make Scratch?
Sorry, what?
Would it take years to make Scratch?
Yeah, so the version of Scratch we use now is version 3. So they've been working on this for years and years and years, improving it. And there's a huge team that work on it. You know, it's a lot of people's full-time job.
I have 2 questions. One is that, is there like a limited amount of projects you can create in machine learn, like that machine learning one?
Yeah, so as someone was mentioning before, that there's not a limit on how many you can make, but there's a limit on how many you can have at once. So what I try and force people to do is, when they finished with a project, delete it and then create a new one. Because what I was worried about was, if someone creates a project and then forgets about it and leaves it alone, I have to store all of their training examples forever. So I kind of, to get people to make sure they clean up when they finished, I basically make you delete it before you start new projects. I mean, if there are particular times, like if someone was sort of saying, I've got an idea for a project and I want to use 3 machine learning models, so I really need to have 3 projects at once, you know, definitely get in touch with me. We can tweak the rules here and there for if there's reasons. But yeah, the reason why I do that is just to try and keep my bills down.
Okay, and did you make like that machine learning website?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So I didn't want to ask any question, but I just wanted to say the things you showed and you made were really nice. I love them.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you first think that you want to make a way that children can code and do AI without adults have to teach them?
So when I first started the site, my children, so I've got 2 daughters, and they're a bit older now, but at the time, I was doing AI at work, and I was trying to explain to them what I did for a job. I was trying to explain to them what AI meant. So I would build with them little demos of things that they could make, so they could understand what I did. So that was kind of where it started. And I just kind of started sharing more generally, but the original idea came from wanting to explain to my daughters what I do all day.
Wow.
And the first project we did was actually similar. Someone was mentioning before we started about making games, and that was the first project I did with my daughters. It was a game called Guess Who, where you've got a lot of faces, and you ask questions like, are they wearing a hat, or do they have long hair, or are they a man? You ask yes/no questions to eliminate which face it is. And actually, that project is another nice example of using 2 types of machine learning model, because there was a text model to understand the question. Is someone asking about hat or glasses or color hair or whatever? And there was another another machine learning model that does the images, that could recognize what's in a face. So yeah, that was the very first project we did, and that one was used 2 models.
Wow. Wait. So you said that if somebody needs more than 3, like, then they would have to contact you or do something so that they were able to have 3. But the way that you showed us, like, you made 2 different projects. You put them into Scratch 3, and then you download it without any code, and then you mix both of them so that both of them were there. So why can't they do that if they need 3? Isn't it if you can have 3, so you can just train one and put it, and then make another one and mix, and the third one and mix?
Yes, that's a good point. The limit is just around how many of these projects you have at once. So you can see that for me, I've increased my limit to 5. So that, because I'm working on 5 projects at the moment. The only limit is on the fact that you can have 2 sets of training examples and 2. But you're right, in Scratch, you can do as many things as you want. And if you're going to use pre-trained models, you can use as many of them as you want. So yeah, that's a fair point.
Eva, you wanted to ask something?
And I finished.
Ishandi, are you done with your question?
Yes, miss, I forgot to lower my hand.
Kids, has this helped for you to think about how you can use machine learning for the challenges today?
A lot, miss.
So what are the challenges? What are the topics?
Confident.
Sorry, I talked over you there. Sorry, say that again.
Nishita, you wanted to say something? The 3 challenges today are life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and climate action.
Okay.
I think
Interesting.
thinking about it. Does somebody want to give it a go and share, especially the ones with the games?
So my game was actually an idea that I had a long time ago, but then I decided to tweak it. So, you know, on Chrome or in Google, when your internet's gone, but you search for something, so you get that little dino game where you press the space bar and then the little dino jumps and then you jump over the cacti. So that game, instead of the cacti to jump over, there would be these little seeds which are like in mid-air, and you have to collect those seeds. And each time you collected a seed, it would plant them in the ground that you just passed over. So you get like a little sprout. So then you just planted it like a game. And so like in a level 2, there would be these robots who wanted to kill the trees that you had grown. So you have to kill them by spraying water everywhere. So then the robots would malfunction, but then the trees would get water. So it would be good for the trees. But then right at the end, there's this huge mega robot who comes to kill down all of them at once. But then, yeah, actually, I'm still working on how to kill that guy.
Oh.
That's hard.
Yes, ma'am. I'm working on a project called the Dope Lab. My company name is Doodle, and in school we are working on it. So it's a space explorer app actually. So what it does, when you click in it, the entry will come. Welcome to the Doodle Lab privacy and policy, and the next page it will shift to the next screen. So there are many type of pictures there. When you will click every planet has a picture. So when you will click on the picture, the definition will come like about that.
Nice.
Kids, any more questions for Dale?
And he cleared all the doubts.
Well, if when you get started, or when you sort of get back to working on the projects, if you get stuck at all, I'll keep an eye on the forum and my email. So do ask your teachers; they can get in touch if you need any help with getting anything working.
Yeah, I think they will just have to remember how to use the AI, because they're still getting warmed up to the idea. They're familiar with Scratch, but when to use AI and do you really need AI? I think, but it's a learning process, so I'm sure they'll get through it.
Yeah.
I think Adhyayan has another question for you.
Yes, sir. These AIs are like robots. So how do we code in it? Like there's a chip, I know that, but how do we enter the code in it so that it follows the steps?
How do you mean? Sorry.
I mean, like the AIs are robots or the computer projects. So how do we enter code in it that can follow? Like you made an app. Like if she or he wants to go there, so so it will say that you should go there. So how do we enter code in it? For like example, Alexa.
Coordinates like sort of
Alexa
where you want it.
All these AI is not an online project. This is like a thing. So how do we enter code in it?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Sorry.
I think he's asking how you enter code for things that don't come online.
Oh, I see what you mean. Sorry. You mean using machine learning for kids, or just in general in like the real world?
Yes.
I mean, so how do the way of getting code onto devices? I mean, nowadays so many things are on the internet. You know, that is how we push code to pretty much any device. I mean, there are other ways, I guess, plugging cables into things. I mean, certainly when I'm trying to put new things on here, I have to plug it in. But the way that, if you look at, I mean, you mentioned things like Alexa, increasingly nowadays, because the machine learning models are so big, rather than put them onto the device, we have it on the internet, and then the device can just sort of connect when it needs to use the models. And it also means we can keep the models up to date. So if you look at things like the Alexa, I've just woken mine up by saying that. The model today is not as good as it was last week or as it was a month ago. They're constantly getting improved because they look at, and it was coming back to what someone was saying about bias, you know, the more examples we can get to train it with, the more people we can get to help us train it, the better it gets. So the main reason we tend to host these in central places is it gives us the chance to constantly improve them with all the different examples we can collect.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Ishita? Is Ishita here?
Yes. Yes. We just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today and for interacting with the children and answering all of their questions. I think we are really lucky to have had you here join us today. So thank you so much from all of us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been really fun, and best of luck with all of your projects.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Or give a
Thank you, sir.
They'll also, we learned something new today about how to use 2 machine learning models.
I'm looking forward to seeing what people can do.
In fact, what we used to make our children do is use a pre-trained model and then do a machine learning model. So maybe that way they can use 3 together.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.